Hey everyone, I'm David Grinberg. We're at BA Live here in Dallas. We're in the Q3 event and I'm with Carl Gould, the founder of 7 Stage Advisors. And Carl has a plethora of knowledge when it comes to building businesses, scaling businesses, helping businesses out of troubling times. And you've been with Tony Robbins, you've done a lot. You have a loving family with 3 kids. And it's just a pleasure to meet you and see you here and spend the day with you here. So
thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit more about yourself and how you got started? I mean, it's been a long time since 1985?
1985 was my first year as an entrepreneur, but I started coaching in 1990. When there was no such thing as a coach or very little thing as a coach. There wasn't much of an industry. And I started doing life coaching, results coaching as they call it at the time, and also business coaching.
I like the results coaching part. What made you decide entrepreneurship first and not just get a part-time job or something to fill in the gap?
Well, it was a lesson that my employer in high school taught me. He was really busy one day, and I was a landscaping contractor, and he gave me the proposal for a family in the neighborhood we were working in that he needed to deliver, but he was stuck on the job site. He promised he would drop off the proposal. He and didn't want to disappoint the lady, really the couple. And so he said, Carl, just bring this down to Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And, if they have any questions, just explain the proposal as best you can and just let them know I'll be by later. Mm-hmm. And I said, oh, no, okay. So he hands me the proposal. I look through it. I know what it means. I will go down there and I meet with Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And they said, I handed it to him and I said, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, if you look at the sketch here, here's what's going on in the front yard. Here's what's going on in the side yards. And here's what's happening in the back. And she said, oh, could you just walk me through it? And I said, oh, sure, I'm happy to. So here's what we're going to do in the front. And I explained the whole thing. I said, here are the borders along the back. And then here is the plan for the backyard. And she's like, oh, okay, well, great. We'll do it. And I said, oh, okay, well, good news. I'll let my boss know. And so I go back to the boss and I said, she's going to do it. And he's like, oh, well, that's really good. He goes, she hadn't told me if she was committed or she was going to do the project. And he goes, which parts? And I said, well, what do you mean? Well, what part of the proposal? There was 3 sections. I said, well, there was the front, the sides, and the back. He goes, yeah, but those were 3 sections. She was only interested in the front. And I said, well, she's doing it all. Wow. And he was like, really? And so I think that went so well, he sent me on a few more proposals, and I won those also. And so he started using me as a bit of a salesman to close these deals. And then he's like, oh, you remember Mrs. Smith? I'm like, oh, yeah, the lady with the front and the sides and the back. And he goes, yeah. He goes, well, go get started. And I said, all right, okay. He goes, I'll drop off the plant material and the other materials and start on the project. And when I broke my leg, I was in a full-length cast.
On the job?
Later so fast forward, I go to college.
Okay.
I broke my leg. I had to leave school. I'm laying with my leg elevated, basically in traction, on my mother's couch, trying to figure out what's next for me. And I said, I could go back and work for that same landscaper. And then I said, well, wait a minute. I sold the job. He then told me to go do the job. I said, well, what do I need him for at this point? I said, I just need to get the leads. And I know how to do that. Drop by a job site. Do you need a landscaper? And, so I did that. So I got into entrepreneurship because I figured, wait a minute, why would I just work for, the minimum wage at the time was like $6 an hour when I can just be the boss and do it. And so that's why I did it. I did it mostly out of need, and I had student loan debt, and I had, all this other stuff I had to pay for, and I was paying my own way through life at that time. So I did it mostly out of need, but then I realized it was really right for me anyway,
And like looking back now and we fast forward to today, you're constantly flying around. You've learned a lot of things that aren't taught in schools and in the books. How do you kind of reconcile all of that travel and all of that work and the stress tolerance and everything that you've built over the years with kind of a system that you can teach other entrepreneurs for mindset and staying healthy? Because you look
Yeah.
great. Like, I mean,
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you.
It's 7:00 here. We just had a whole day, and you're pushing it out. Like, it's the morning, so it's great.
Well, it's easy to do things when you love what you're doing, right? And so this kind of work gives me energy. So, I feel like throughout the course of the day, I'm always saying, oh, I got another wind. I'm ready to go. So thank you. But I do enjoy very much what we're doing. So when I get started in the work and I decide that this work is for me, I thought business was a lot more complicated than it really turned out to be. I got one of my best lessons very early on in my career. I went on 3 proposals in my new business, and I got all 3 in a row. I call my father. I'm like, Dad, you're not going to believe it. I got 3 in a row. I'm like, I'm crushing it. And he says to me, well, did you ask any of them why they said yes? And I said, no, I didn't even think to ask that. And he said, well, if you know why they said yes, then you can repeat whatever worked. And I'm like, good one, Dad. So I went back to one of the people that I got the project from, and it was a commercial project, 2 partners, and they look at each other like, what do you think? Should we tell them? Yeah, why not? We gave him the job already. Well, it can't hurt. Guy comes up to me and says, you were the only one who showed up?
Wow.
And I said, what? I thought business was this complicated thing. You had to have this big degree. You have to have all this knowledge. And as it turns out, I learned very quickly you can hustle your way to get the work. And you know what? If I hustled when I was doing the work, I got done a little quicker. And then I out-hustled the next time to get the proposal a couple days early. And before I knew it, I realized I had my formula, and that if I was committed to serving the customer and I did my best, worked my hardest, that, the rewards would really come. And so that's really where I focused on. I wasn't always right. I wasn't always perfect. I wasn't always even good. But I got to tell you, my intention was always there. And I wanted to serve. I wanted to be that person for them. I wanted to help the customer, no matter what I was doing, no matter what business I was in. And I just learned that if I hustled my assets, I could win.
And I love that part about calling your dad. I do the same thing whenever I get a win. I always want to call him and be the first one to let him know that something good happened. And I think that it's really cool because your son is active duty in the military right now.
He is,
as well.
Yeah.
So do you guys ever talk about the wins that he's going through? Because I have an older brother and he's also in the military, active duty, and we're always talking about some deals we're doing together or some cool stuff. So how's that been?
Yeah. My son, Sean, he's active military right now. He's in his last year, so he's going to retire from the military, but he's loving it. He's, I don't know if the Army's perfect for him, but he's perfect for the Army. Like he's exactly heart-led servant, does everything you ask, always shows up, never questions a word, an order. I mean, he's told to do something, he's doing it, So we talk all the time. I couldn't be any more proud of him. And, but we do talk about his wins. He shrugs it off like, Dad, it's just my job. It's what I do. I'm like, no, Sean, you don't rise that fast and you don't get that much done or ask to take that much responsibility unless you're doing something really right. So, we do go back and forth. He likes to joke and bust my chops a bit. I like to do the same to him. So we have a great rap that way. But we do share in what our successes are.
That's great. And do you ever kind of systematize that in a way with time management? You're always traveling. How do you incorporate your family into that lifestyle and let them know about what you're doing?
Yeah, well, when I had a construction company, I never left a 60-mile radius of where I grew up.
Oh, wow.
Until I started doing coaching and
New
training.
Jersey, right?
In northern New Jersey. Never went anywhere. I didn't have my passport, never traveled. I travel more now, but it gives me flexibility. So if I'm traveling to Colorado or in that direction, and that's where Sean lives, I can integrate work and life. If I can meet a family member where I need to, if I'm traveling, we can go as a family to places. So it does give me some of that flexibility that I can kind of mold my personal and family life around my work life. So I think of it more like integration as opposed to balance. Because I do not have a life of balance. That I don't have it.
It's one life.
What's that?
It's just one life. It's everything.
It's just one. It's all together. And if you could tell me I could go to work and do something I love, then see someone I love, you know what I mean, and do some fun things while I'm doing that, and then on the way back, do other work, see other friends and family, and that to me that sounds like a pretty cool tour. That sounds like a pretty cool circuit that I get to run.
Yeah.
So.
No, it's fascinating because I think that in the early days you're kind of just walking around and stumbling through life, and then once you get that traction and you figure out what your purpose is, and in your case it's helping other people literally provide for their families and sustain a bigger community. It's the best thing that you can possibly do. But do you ever feel like there might be a higher purpose that you're serving? Do you ever fall into some faith or religious practice that keeps everything together, at least subliminally?
Yeah, I grew up Catholic. I went to Catholic grammar school and high school, so very well schooled in theology. Took that course. Went to church regularly. Took those courses all the way through high school. Very much so that's very much a part of my life. Grew up in a Catholic family, that sort of thing. So I do believe in that and spirituality, and that there is a higher purpose. There is a God. There's a greater being. We're not just colliding around coincidentally. So I and personal development over the years for me has not that it is a religion, but religion and personal development share a lot of and overlapping concepts.
Hero's journey and things like that.
Yeah, do unto others and laws of attraction and reciprocity and those sorts of things. Those are the sorts of things that you see in both, and they've just been a big part of my life overall. And what I like is the work that I get to do. I get to express that a lot. So I get to incorporate that into my life as well. So it's very fulfilling for me individually as I'm doing my work in my business. So the point for me is I don't feel that I ever have to rob one area of my life for business and vice versa. Mm-hmm. I can integrate them well. I have to stay on my game though when it comes to time management and balancing my resources and deciding where I'm channeling things, because I can fall way out of balance very quickly if not. Where it could be way too much about work or way not enough about work. It's just, I can fall into the extremes easily. So as long as I'm on my game, working with my team and, being disciplined about it, I can really strike that chord that I want to.
Yeah, and you mentioned some things like laws of attraction, and you spent a lot of time with Tony Robbins. So how did that relationship happen? What got you in there in the first place? It was such a long time ago that not many people have heard of him at that time. So
yeah, it was funny. There was someone very close to me in my family wanted to do personal development. She wasn't really sure where to go, so I helped her do research. And I said, oh, well, there's this Tony Robbins guy. It looks like he's doing some good work. And this was 1988, something like that.
Yeah, that's...
And so I said, well, looks good. Why don't you check him out? And she comes back to me, and we're talking on the phone. She goes, looks good, but a little creepy. He does seminars in his house. I don't know if I want to travel to California and do seminars in some guy's house. And I said, oh, well, I said, I don't know anything more about him, but we have an open mind. And as it turns out, Tony was doing seminars in his home at the time. He had a castle, he had other things, so you can judge from there. But it was his house. And so she did a series of seminars in a very intimate setting with him years ago. I think there were 20 or 30 people or something along the lines. She came back, she says, wow, the seminars are really good. She goes, I put your name in for them to follow up with you. And then I went to Unleash the Power Within in 1990. And so that's how that all came about. And then since then, I did a lot of his programs, took his leadership track, became a trainer, and then actually his company became a client. Wow. So I wrote a couple segments of his Unleash the Power Within seminar, his coaching breakout session, and I actually coached a participant to one of his seminars was assigned to me. His name was Chet Holmes, And Chet Holmes wrote a book called The Ultimate Sales Machine, and he wrote in his 9-page questionnaire, I want to do a deal with Tony Robbins. And so I coached Chet for 2 years on how to do that, and also helped Chet create content that became what we know now as business mastery. So it was pretty cool to come full circle, and to start out being I researched him, someone I knew went there, I attended, then I went to the leadership track, and then I contributed back to his company. So it's been a pretty cool relationship over the years.
Yeah, now you're still leading in New Jersey. You're the president at EO. Is that correct?
I was the president of the New Jersey chapter of Entrepreneurs Organization. Yeah.
And what is that for people who don't know?
So EO, or Entrepreneurs Organization, it's a member-led, it's a nonprofit organization where business owners, founders support each other, we help each other grow as leaders, learn, and help each other, process through issues and opportunities as a bit in a support environment. And in EO, we call them forums. Okay. So we get together once a month, 6 to 10 business owners who get together and go through a specific set of protocols to help them understand the best 5% in life, business, and health, and the worst 5% of life, business, and health, and personal. It's been a great opportunity, a way to give back to others, and as a business coach, it's a great place to get coached.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things I really like about it.
Yeah, I just had my very first forum here at BA, and it was with you.
Yeah, that's right. We were in that one together. So yeah,
that was great. Great. How do you see the current business environment shifting with the rise of AI and new technology? I'm more of a private equity guy, so we always look at businesses without technology and try to put tech into them. So to us, the playbook seems kind of standard. With new AI, I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, AI is an incredible tool. But let me just take you through the lineage of my career. I start in 1985. I start coaching in 1990. Carl, there's this thing called email. It's freaking awesome. It's the death of all things paper, right? Then it was, Carl, there's this thing called search. Email's dead. There is no, who needs AOL anymore? So every time a tool is introduced, the whole rest of the world is dead. Everyone says that, right? Yeah. So I've been through fax machines and answering machines and dial-up and Wi-Fi, my first personal computer was as big as this room. I mean, we've had a set of tools to assist us through the lineage. So it went, email, then it went to internet, then it went to search, then it went to social media, and now, we now have AI, and it is a phenomenal tool. There's no question. But all of these tools, even as they advance, they provide us with intelligence. But as we're talking now, they do not provide wisdom. Intelligence, yes. Wisdom, no. All right? And what I see is the more information you give a person to make a decision, the less likely they are to make a decision, and they oftentimes make a worse decision. So the tools are very good for efficiency. The tools are good for taking away some of the crappy blocking and tackling or research or laborious work that you might have to do. Which is good, and it's useful for that. But it does free you up to be more creative, to be more of a thought leader, to be more present, to do more of the human interaction work that you can do. So AI is brilliant because it's one of the first tools where the learning curve for the user is the easiest, because that's been the issue. Right? If I don't care which phone you have, which device you have, you probably can only use 20 or 30% of its capability. Most of us can't use most of the capability of the tools we have right now. Most of my clients have very little utilization of the software that they have. They just don't use the tools all that much. But AI is one of the first tools where it's user friendly out of the gate for the average person. So I think it's going to get a lot of utilization. I think it'll continue to evolve, of course, and it'll change the landscape. But all it's going to do is evolve the landscape. The main components of business haven't changed, aren't going to change. All we have is another toolbox, right? When I was a carpenter, if I put another hammer in your pouch, it doesn't make you a carpenter. It just gives you another hammer in your pouch, right? It gives you the capability, if you use a tool, to build a better structure of whatever that is. And AI is going to do the same thing. It's going to give you more access to more information in a more organized way, and hopefully in such a format that you can then add your insights to it to make better decisions, build a better business, serve your client better.
So we need more leaders that are going to move the needle and not just rely on servicing data that we have.
Correct. I mean, look, all it's doing is bringing you the same stuff we already have faster and more of it, right? Now, of course it can make mistakes. Anything can. Does it give you some better insights? Yes, it does. But again, at the end of the day, Mike Tyson said it very well. Everyone has a plan until they get hit, right? True. And if you're a business owner and getting hit, the equivalent in business is you make a mistake that was costly. You can't make payroll this month. All of a sudden, decisions there's a lot more of a premium put on your decisions. And just because you gave me a 48-page printout from ChatGPT, well, you know what? ChatGPT is not paying your mortgage if you screw this decision up, right? So a lot more. When I was a builder, I wasn't much of a painter. Like you would always paint everything white and let you do the thing. So I remember one day we actually agreed to do the painting for one of our clients. And they said, listen, I just want this room green. I'm like, all right, green. How hard could that be? So I go into the paint shop, and there's a million swatches that are green. I thought I knew what green was until I had more choices. And then I had no clue what color I was. And I'm like, I'm not doing this. I bring the client in. I'm like, pick the swatch. I said green, just that one. I'm like, I never would have guessed that one. Never. And they're like, and they're like, which one would you have guessed? And I'm like, well, that one. Like, oh my God. Carl, I never would have chose that. And I'm like, it's green. They're all green. But you have 100 greens. You would like that shade a little bit more. So glad I asked them to do it. I had intelligence. I didn't have wisdom, right? So as long as we're using the tools so we can build our wisdom so we can make the right decisions, right? That's where AI is going to help us. But right now, AI is doing more to confuse people right now than solve their problems. But as we get better at the tool, it'll be a more productive tool for us.
And touching on that wisdom point, if you were talking to yourself when you're 30, 20, how would you have made yourself a little bit more wise?
Well, one, I would have realized that I was wiser than I thought I was, and wiser than I gave myself credit for. So when I was doing work with Tony Robbins, I used to one of the jobs that I had as a trainer was I used to prep the speakers. So one speaker he used to have at his Life Mastery program was somebody called General Norman Schwarzkopf. And I loved being around him. He was a great guy. And I had to prep him a couple of times for one of his speeches. And his big thing was, his first rule was take charge. When put in a position of leadership, take charge, right? And his second rule was essentially make a decision and get started, right? Yeah. And he said it's better to make a decision than have to tweak that decision than make no decision at all. So his big thing was when you're put in a lead position, take charge and then make a decision and take action. And so if I was speaking to my younger self, I would have told myself to take more action because I realized I was on the right track a lot more than I thought I was. And in the times that I wasn't, because I didn't take as much action, I got to the point of realizing it slower. Had I taken action and taken more action, I would have gotten to the failure point quicker. I'd have been able to reverse course and fix the problem easier. I think I stayed in issues and negative situations longer than I had to. So if I were to speak to my younger self, I would have said, go for it quicker, go for it harder. You think you're running faster, and you'll get there. You'll get to your success quicker.
Wow. So one last question before
Sure.
dinner. How would you define executive presence?
Executive presence.
Yeah.
And in what context? Just
Leadership.
leadership, and leadership in the presence of others.
In the presence of others, yeah.
Okay. So leadership in the so there's a few things. One would be being in the moment, whatever moment you're in, be in the moment. Okay. When you're in the moment, a true leader calls it what it is. They don't call it less than what it is. They don't call it more than what it is. They call it what it is, right? So I don't have to exaggerate. I always thought life was interesting enough. I never really understood why people have to exaggerate things or put themselves down. You know, I'm like, well, why are you talking yourself down, or why are you overly talking yourself up? I said, life is pretty interesting just as it is. I mean, the stuff that happens every day is fascinating to me, right? So I always thought, like, why do you have to cut corners, or why do you have to put yourself down? I said, it's pretty cool. So as a leader, call it what it is, show up, and be willing to take the lead, but also be willing to go to the back of the room and let others shine. So as a leader, to me, you find out what the common goal is, and you become a servant to the goal. Not even the people you're around, but what is the outcome? What would serve them best? And you fully surrender to the outcome. And once you do that, you can lead the people around you, whether it's from the front, the middle, or the back, even better, right? And the last bit would be, is the more that you love, respect, and really admire the people you're serving, the better you can serve them. If you can find out what is so amazing about them, then you will show up as a bigger person to serve them. Because if I think of you as 2 inches tall, I'll show up as a 2-inch leader. If I think of you as 10 inches tall, I'm like, ooh, that guy's not 2 inches, he's 10 inches. I got to show up as a 10-inch leader right here. Yeah. So the bigger I think you are, the bigger I think I've got to become, or the more I've got to more resources I got to bring to the table in order to serve you. So if I respect you to the utmost level, I can serve you to the utmost level. If I don't take you seriously, I can't lead you seriously. So that's how I would define it.
Carl, thank you so much, and this was a fantastic interview. And I hope to see you in New Jersey or Florida, wherever around the world you may be.
Very soon. Very soon. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.